less than 2 weeks, a total solar eclipse will cut a path across 13 states, darkening parts of the country for several minutes as the moon passes between the sun and Earth.
In 2024, a special solar eclipse will sweep across the sky, drawing an unconventional X right over America, just as everyone starts thinking about the upcoming elections. This isn't just any sky event. It's got people whispering about ancient prophecies, linking it to stories from the Bible's most terrifying warnings. What if this eclipse is more than just a shadow? Join us as we dive into the secrets of the stars and what they might be trying to tell us. The last before the end times, circle 2024 on your calendars, because we are in for a show that's much more than just a chance to gaze at the sky. It's an occasion wrapped in a sense of foreboding. Get ready to see a solar eclipse. But let me tell you, this is not just any regular sky event. This time, it's a unique total solar eclipse. Some people are even saying that it's linked to scary predictions about the 2024 elections in the United States and Israel. Some are even calling it a sign of the end of the world. We're going to dive deep into this solar eclipse today and look at what people are saying it means. Get ready for a conclusion to our discussion that might make you think twice about the future. The Bible is full of stories and predictions, and it often talks about the stars, the moon, and the sun, including eclipses, as if they're big, flashing signs for those who love prophecies. For example, in Luke 21:25, Jesus talks about seeing signs in the sky when the end times are coming. These kinds of statements make people pay extra attention whenever something unusual happens in the sky. But if you really want to understand what an event like a solar eclipse means, you need to think like a historian, a religious expert, and someone who understands what's going on in the world today. It's all about connecting different moments in history, looking closely at stories from the Bible that are similar, staying updated on what's happening around the world, and analyzing current events very carefully. By doing this, we might figure out if what we're seeing is a warning from above or just another part of the ongoing story of the universe. Ecclesiastes 1:9 talks about how everything that happens has happened before. It's like the world is showing us the same stories again and again. This might make you ask, are we just following in the footsteps of those who were here before us? For many people who are deeply religious, the answer is a little more complicated. They think that even though events might seem to repeat themselves, there's a powerful force behind everything: God. This isn't just about history repeating itself. It's about a God who is always there, unchanging, even as the world goes through its ups and downs, its moments of new ideas and destruction. Let's dive deeper and think about what this all means in a more day-to-day sense. If history is indeed repeating itself, and if there's some sort of divine influence behind it, does this mean we're stuck making the same errors over and over? Or could it mean that within these repetitive cycles, there's a chance for us to grow, to learn from our past, and to do things better next time? Consider the insights we've gained from previous wars and the efforts to make peace that came after them. Every time we get the opportunity to use the knowledge from past mistakes to avoid future conflicts. However, we often see the same issues cropping up again, which seems to indicate that we're not fully taking the lessons to heart. From what Ecclesiastes says, this recurring issue might just be part of being human. Our collective challenge is to find a way to do things differently and set a new direction. Furthermore, the saying "there is nothing new under the sun" could also serve as a humble reminder. It tells us that even our biggest achievements and challenges might not be as groundbreaking as we believe. This doesn't make them less significant, but it does place them in a wider frame of human history and divine supervision. The steadfastness of God, as seen by believers, means that despite all our progress, ethical quandaries, and shifts in society, there's a basic truth we can always come back to, a moral guide that stays the same. For many, this constancy is comforting, providing a stable foundation in a rapidly changing world. When we think about this passage from Ecclesiastes, we're encouraged to view our lives and the world around us with a perspective that goes beyond the present moment. It helps us see the cycles of history not just as repetitions, but as chances for deep thinking, for personal and collective improvement, and for reconnecting with enduring principles. Now, think about the prophets from the Bible who warned Israel of its misdeeds with signs from above. Each warning foreshadowed what was to come, showing a divine link between wrongdoing and its consequences, often centered around idol worship and national sins. Jump to the book of Revelation chapter 6, and we're faced with the allegory of the four horsemen, symbols of conquest, war, famine, and death, that depict a severe view of divine judgment on the world. Let's look from the sky to the ground, where the past might be showing us we're on a familiar path, learning from Bible times in today's world. As the Earth continues its journey around the sun, we witness events of great significance that echo stories from the earliest chapters of human history, particularly those found in the Bible. It seems as though we are trapped in a loop, reliving moments of divine punishment for our collective wrongdoings. Take, for instance, the tale of Nebuchadnezzar. This king of Babylon wasn't merely flexing his power for fun. He was acting out a role assigned by divine will, serving as an instrument of judgment not only against Israel, but also against a roster of ancient nations such as Egypt, Assyria, and Moab. The prophet Jeremiah, known for his stark warnings, spoke of plagues and famines that would pave the way for Babylon's rise to dominance. According to Jeremiah 38:2, the options were grim: face death by sword, famine, and disease, or surrender to Babylon and perhaps survive. Moving to the tumultuous times starting in 2020, it feels as if we're witnessing a compilation of calamities straight out of the Bible, including pandemics, food shortages, economic instability, social upheaval, and the increasing threat of war, notably with Russia's aggressive moves. These modern-day events, mirroring biblical precedents, seem to highlight ongoing sin and idolatry within nations, suggesting that we might be heading towards a significant divine intervention. While suggesting that we're nearing the end of the world might be an overstatement, the evidence is hard to ignore, pointing towards a need for a significant cosmic realignment. Assuming these events are indeed warnings of impending divine judgment, it's worth pondering the hints and cautionary signals that have been given before such severe outcomes. History shows that divine warnings often precede major acts of retribution, usually conveyed through prophets. This leads to a rather uncomfortable realization that we might have been overlooking signs of coming danger, distracted by entertainment and social media squabbles. The repeating nature of these scenarios, from the era of Nebuchadnezzar to our current day, highlights not only a cycle of divine action, but also our tendency to forget the lessons of the past. The world appears to be the backdrop for an ongoing saga of divine punishment, with humanity playing the lead role of the errant character. The scriptural stories of plagues, famines, and wars are reflected in today's global crises with unsettling accuracy, suggesting a timeless truth. Despite changes in the world, some things remain constant. The events of 2020 seemed like they were lifted from the pages of ancient scripture, unfolding live for all to see. Amidst a worldwide pandemic, societies were plunged into a state of disorder reminiscent of historical plagues, bringing to life the tales of widespread disease and disruption mentioned in sacred texts. As the pandemic unfolded, countless businesses shut down, leaving many without work and families everywhere facing financial hardship. This period felt reminiscent of historical famines, where failed harvests meant not enough food to go around. People found it hard to make ends meet, highlighting the fragility of our modern world. Amidst this economic turmoil, civil unrest erupted as individuals gathered en masse to protest against injustices. These demonstrations were reminiscent of historical rebellions where citizens would rise up to demand change. These moments prove that when individuals feel oppressed, they unify to seek a brighter future, echoing countless struggles for justice throughout history. Overlaying these challenges was the looming threat of war, with tensions simmering in various regions. The fear of conflict acted as a shadow over daily life, causing widespread anxiety about potential future crises. This unease served as a stark reminder that disputes between nations can escalate into significant conflicts, mirroring historical wars fought over territory, power, or ideological differences. The consecutive occurrence of these events served as a wake-up call, revealing that despite advancements in technology and knowledge, we remain susceptible to age-old problems. It was as though we were being shown a lesson. No matter our progress, some fundamental challenges remain unchanged, including our health vulnerabilities, the necessity for sustenance and employment, the quest for justice and peace in the dread of warfare. These challenging times also prompted reflection on our choices, how we interact with one another, and our treatment of the earth. They highlighted our shortcomings, such as contributing to pollution, perpetuating inequality, and neglecting the vulnerable. However, these moments also showcased humanity's capacity for compassion, cooperation, and collective action towards resolving significant issues. The events following 2020 felt like a reenactment of historical lessons, experienced in real time. They underscored our connection to a broader human narrative, filled with both adversity and the chance for improvement. These instances invited us to reflect on our past mistakes and the potential to forge a kinder, more equitable world. Get ready to explore how the sun and moon connect to old prophecies and what they might mean today. How the sun and moon warn us of what's coming. The sun and moon, two celestial bodies wrapped in layers of mystery and tied to ancient prophecies. In the realm of biblical predictions, the moon is often seen as representing Israel, while the sun is viewed as a symbol for the nations of the world. Get ready, as we're about to dive into a story filled with cosmic puzzles that push our understanding to new heights. In the biblical creation story found in Genesis, the sun and moon, along with the stars, don't make their appearance until the fourth day. Interestingly, this happens after the earth is already illuminated and covered in vegetation on the third day. This sequence might leave one wondering about the process of photosynthesis happening without the sun, or how the Earth's flora could thrive without a single drop of rain. The concept of plants growing lush and vibrant without their main source of energy or water is quite fascinating. This peculiar order of events positions the sun and moon as crucial elements in the Earth's environmental dance, influencing the movement of ocean currents, weather patterns, and the introduction of rain, a concept seemingly absent until the time of Noah. But here's an intriguing point. Even before the grand display of lights in the sky, and before rain became a part of Earth's weather cycle, plants were flourishing, seemingly nurtured by water from beneath the Earth's surface. This raises an interesting thought. Why were plants created before the establishment of essential elements like sunlight and rain? Was it a test of faith or an unexpected oversight in the divine plan? As the narrative progresses, Genesis assigns new roles to the sun and moon, transforming them into keepers of time, dividing day from night, and signaling the start of sacred days and seasons. Beyond their basic functions of shedding light and adding beauty to the sky, they serve as signs for significant events on the divine calendar, dictating the timing for celebrations, seasons, and forewarnings of the end times. Imagine looking up at the sky to see the sun vanish during daylight, casting darkness as if night has fallen prematurely, and the moon emerging not with its typical glow, but tinted with a reddish hue. This vivid imagery isn't pulled from a work of fiction, but described in the Bible, specifically in Joel 2:30-31. In these verses, the darkened sun and blood-red moon serve as harbingers of a tumultuous period known as the Day of the Lord. This dramatic change in the sky is not merely a spectacle, it's a profound message delivered through the natural world, signaling the onset of transformative and possibly devastating events. But why do these messages come through the sun, moon, and stars? Because these are elements visible to all of us, no matter where we are. They're part of the bigger picture that surrounds our daily lives, hinting at a universe much grander than our immediate concerns. When these constant lights in our sky begin to behave in unexpected ways, they catch our attention more effectively than almost anything else. The idea of celestial bodies as messengers isn't a novel concept. Throughout history, the appearance of comets, solar and lunar eclipses, and other astronomical phenomena have been interpreted as signs or messages from a higher power. It's as though the universe is reaching out to us with an urgent alert, designed to shake us awake and make us take notice. The underlying message is loud and clear. Significant changes are on the horizon, and it's time for us to prepare. However, preparing doesn't necessarily involve drastic measures like constructing underground shelters or bracing for immediate catastrophe. Rather, it's about taking a moment to evaluate our lives and the impact we have on the world and its inhabitants. It's a prompt to consider our behavior towards each other and the environment, to reassess our actions, and to seek out opportunities to make amends, lend a hand, and foster a more compassionate, fair, and sustainable way of living. Thus, when the scriptures speak of the sun darkening and the moon turning the color of blood, the intention isn't to instill fear. Instead, it's a call to action, an invitation to pause, observe, and think about how we can contribute positively, especially during challenging times. It reminds us that, amidst the hustle and bustle of life, we're part of a much larger narrative and that we have a significant role in influencing what comes next. These prophetic celestial signals are meant to function as a universal alert system. Even Jesus is said to have pointed to such astronomical signs as harbingers of monumental events to come, including natural disasters and conflicts, setting the stage for a sequence of pivotal occurrences. Next, we'll look at the blood moon tetrad, where the moon's changes link past stories to future guesses. What do these blood moon signs really mean? Between 2014 and 2015, an event in the night sky caught the attention of many around the world. This event was a series of 4 total lunar eclipses, each happening during important Jewish holidays. People started calling this series of eclipses the blood moon tetrad, a name that made it sound both fascinating and a bit mysterious. These eclipses turned the moon a deep dark red, making them stand out as more than just ordinary celestial events. While everyone was excited about this rare occurrence, nobody could agree on what it actually meant. Was it a sign from above, a warning, or just a beautiful quirk of nature? The discussions it sparked were endless, with people trying to figure out its significance, but no one could find a definitive answer. This tetrad, or group of 4, quickly gained a spiritual significance for many. The number 4 itself was seen as a symbol with deep universal meaning, possibly hinting at a message from the divine. The sight of the moon turning red was taken by some as a forewarning of conflict and upheaval, possibly indicating troubles ahead for Israel. Given that these eclipses stretched over 2 years, a period which some associate with the idea of division, there was speculation that these celestial signs were predicting the potential splitting up of Israel's land. The biblical prophecy from Joel 3:12, which talks about a climactic battle in the valley of Jehoshaphat, where nations would be judged for how they treated Israel, added fuel to the fire of speculation. This passage, with its themes of division and judgment, seemed to some as if it could be relating directly to the modern-day political issues involving Israel's territory. Then there's the intriguing mention of the ancient cities of Tyre and Sidon in the prophecies. These cities were once bustling centers of trade, known for their incredible wealth and contribution to Phoenician success. However, the Bible also casts these cities into a narrative much larger and more dramatic than mere historical accounts. In Ezekiel 28, the description of the king of Tyre is so extraordinary that some readers have taken it to symbolize something far beyond a mere mortal ruler. Some interpretations suggest that this passage might be alluding to the Antichrist, a significant figure in Christian eschatology believed to emerge before the end times. This interpretation hinges on the rich, symbolic language used in Ezekiel, portraying the king of Tyre with traits that seem too grand for a human, thus suggesting a metaphor for greater evils like pride, downfall, and the eternal struggle between good and evil. This leap from historical figure to end times prophecy showcases the deep intertwining of history with religious narrative, painting Tyre and Sidon as more than just ancient cities, but as symbols within a much larger, unfolding divine story. The association of Tyre and Sidon with themes of downfall due to pride and greed ties into a broader, timeless narrative seen throughout human history. These stories serve as cautionary tales about the dangers of excess and the cyclical nature of civilization's rise and fall. Discussing Tyre and Sidon in the context of biblical prophecies offers a rich exploration of symbolism and moral lessons, urging reflection on our current path and decisions. It's a fascinating blend of history, religion, and moral inquiry, making us ponder the broader implications of our actions and the mysteries of the future. The Phoenicians, especially those from cities like Tyre and Sidon, played a pivotal role in the history and development of the Western world. Their myths, such as that of Princess Europa, who gave Europe its name, highlight the deep cultural connections and influences that the Phoenicians had on the civilizations they interacted with, including the Greeks and Romans. In today's world, large organizations and nations like the European Union, EU, the United Nations, UN, and the United States play significant roles that remind us of the ancient cities of Tyre and Sidon. These modern groups and countries are influential in shaping economic policies, political decisions, and peace agreements worldwide. Much like Tyre and Sidon were known for their commercial and cultural influence during their peak. Interestingly, some people view these similarities not just as historical echoes, but as signs of prophecies coming to life. The ancient stories often depicted Tyre and Sidon as centers of wealth and power, but also as examples of ethical and moral decline. Fast forward to the present, and there's a belief among some that the EU, the UN, and the United States, with their global reach, might be laying the groundwork for significant events in biblical prophecy, including what some interpret as the rise of the Antichrist. This notion is rooted in a combination of historical facts, biblical prophecy, and quite a bit of conjecture. The argument follows that just as the Phoenicians expanded their influence through maritime trade and cultural exchange, today's superpowers extend their influence through diplomatic means, economic interventions, and efforts to address global challenges, such as peace initiatives in regions like the Middle East. The discussion around the Antichrist, however, ventures into highly speculative territory. It revolves around the idea that a future peace agreement, possibly involving areas once under Phoenician influence, could be a pivotal moment signaling the onset of end times, as outlined in certain interpretations of biblical texts. However, it's crucial to approach these connections with a balanced perspective. The impact of the Phoenicians on the development of Western civilization, from their contributions to the alphabet to the enduring myth of Europa, illustrates the lasting influence of ancient cultures on each other and on us. But to leap from recognizing historical influences to predicting apocalyptic scenarios necessitates a leap of faith in a particular way of interpreting both history and religious scriptures. When exploring these theories, it's vital to separate historical knowledge from speculative or faith-based interpretations. The legacy of the Phoenicians is undeniably fascinating, and their stories continue to intrigue us. Yet the idea that current global powers are enacting roles predetermined by ancient prophecies is a matter of personal belief and interpretation of history and scripture. This discussion, as engaging as it is controversial, calls for a careful examination of how ancient prophecies might relate to current global trends. The blood moon tetrad, with its dramatic appearance, ignites conversations about the relationship between celestial phenomena, historical events, and prophetic beliefs. It encourages us to differentiate between symbolic interpretations and literal occurrences, and between chance alignments and supposed divine orchestrations. Let's go back to 2017, a year when two big sky events got everyone talking and wondering about the future. The eclipse that matched the Bible story. In the year 2017, the United States was the stage for two major celestial events that caught the attention of many, especially those fascinated by prophecies and end-of-world predictions. The first big show was the Great American Solar Eclipse on August 21st, a spectacular sight where the moon passed directly between the Earth and the Sun, casting a shadow across the country. While an eclipse on its own is a simple astronomical event, essentially the moon getting in the way of the sun's light, it became the subject of much speculation when linked with other significant occurrences that some believe were predicted by the Bible. Following the eclipse on September 23rd, there was an alignment in the sky that seemed to mirror a scene from the book of Revelation, chapter 12. This alignment included the constellation Virgo, the constellation Leo, several planets, the sun and the moon, creating a scene some interpreted as the biblical vision of a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. This specific configuration, which has only happened once before in history, led some to declare that prophetic times were upon us, pointing to these celestial patterns as signs of significant biblical events unfolding. Fast forward to the year 2024, and it appears the cosmos is arranging itself for another noteworthy spectacle, an eclipse. This event is catching eyes not just for its aesthetic appeal, but because it coincides with particular stellar configurations that have historically sparked deep discussions and wild theories, especially those related to the biblical chapter, Revelation 12. This chapter, filled with symbolic battles between good and evil and references to significant earthly and heavenly changes, including the reestablishment of Israel as a nation, continues to be a source of endless fascination and interpretation among prophecy enthusiasts. With the upcoming celestial events, there's renewed chatter about what these signs might mean, particularly for the United States and its role in global politics, especially concerning the contentious issue of land division in Israel. The topic of how land is divided and managed in Israel is incredibly sensitive and complex, often seen as a bellwether for broader geopolitical shifts and fulfillment of ancient prophecies. When celestial bodies align in such visually stunning ways as during an eclipse, it naturally draws our gaze upwards and makes us ponder the possibility of a greater message or warning being communicated through these astronomical occurrences. The connection of such events with ancient prophecies and stories handed down through centuries adds an extra layer of intrigue and speculation. Regardless of whether these cosmic alignments are viewed as significant signs or merely as stunning natural spectacles, they undeniably initiate discussions. These discussions often transcend astronomical events to touch upon deeper themes like our beliefs, our fears, and our aspirations for the future. For a group of people, the approaching eclipse and stellar alignment serve as a nudge to be more observant, not just of the celestial phenomena, but also of the world around us. They interpret these cosmic occurrences as an encouragement to introspect about our behaviors, our choices, and our interactions with each other and with the environment that sustains us. For another set of individuals, these events are an opportunity to appreciate the beauty of the universe. It's a moment to pause our everyday routines and gaze in wonder at the grandeur of space. It reminds us of how trivial our daily challenges can appear when set against the backdrop of the vast, endless universe. As we move closer to 2024, the conversation surrounding these celestial phenomena, intertwined with biblical prophecies and the political tensions they are associated with, are expected to gain momentum. Regardless of whether these phenomena are interpreted as ominous warnings, intriguing coincidences, or mere moments for reflection, they undoubtedly contribute a fascinating chapter to the ongoing narrative of humanity's exploration of our place in the cosmos. 3.5 years after the eclipse, the narrative became even more complex with the introduction of President Donald Trump's deal of the century. This plan, which suggested a two-state solution, granting a substantial portion of Israeli territory to the Palestinians, seemed tailor-made for those interpreting current events through the lens of biblical prophecy. Suddenly, the biblical adversaries of Israel, notably the Philistines, were thrust back into the conversation, viewed through a less than favorable biblical lens. Then, as if orchestrated, the world found itself grappling with a series of crises: a pandemic, economic instability, civil unrest, and significant political changes, including the departures of Netanyahu and Trump from their respective stages. Contrary to expectations of a biblical sequence, it appeared as if the four horsemen of the apocalypse had opted for a more unconventional entrance, presenting their signs in an unexpected order, and leaving many to wonder about the meaning behind these developments. In the wake of these occurrences, a new global strategic landscape began to emerge. The formation of alliances reminiscent of the prophetic Gog and Magog battle, particularly with OPEC countries aligning more closely with the BRICS nations, including China, suggested a pivotal shift in global power dynamics. This realignment, posing a challenge to the dominance of the American dollar in international trade, hinted at potential economic disturbances, rising inflation, and rumors of a banking crisis looming in the United States. Moving towards 2024, we'll explore what the stars might be telling us and how it could change our world. The dramatic answer of the 2024 eclipse. Mark your calendars for an event that might seem like it's lifted from the pages of the Bible. We are on track to witness a sky spectacle that continues to stir conversations, just as a similar event did back in 2017. This upcoming solar eclipse is shaping up to be anything but ordinary. It aims to leave a striking X mark across the United States. This intriguing pattern will predominantly affect the eastern part of the country, making its dramatic debut 7 months before the 2024 presidential elections. The coincidence of its timing has sparked a wave of speculation and curiosity. It appears the universe is setting the stage for a grand performance that mirrors narratives found in Revelation 12. Here, the constellation Leo, historically tied to Judah and Jerusalem and seen as a symbol of Jesus, the Lion of Judah, plays a significant role in this cosmic display. Envision the night sky transforming into a vast canvas, illustrating ancient stories and prophecies, as if the stars are trying to relay a message to us. This event encourages us to delve into its deeper meaning and ponder the message it might be conveying. The presence of the number 7 in this context is captivating, often symbolizing wholeness, the end of a phase, and an opportunity for reflection on what has unfolded. The fact that this eclipse is happening exactly 7 years after its predecessor, along with the emphasis on the number 7 throughout the event, suggests we are witnessing the end of an important cycle in prophetic terms. In the realm of biblical prophecy, particularly referencing the book of Daniel, there's talk of 70 weeks set aside for judgment, with each week representing a 7-year span. This framework is essential for grasping the importance of the 2024 eclipse. This event is not so much about heralding doom, but rather reflecting on past events and looking forward to the future with a sense of hope. It's like the universe is holding up a mirror to historical milestones, while also offering a glimpse into the future. This moment invites us to pause and think about the path of Israel and humanity, providing a time to reflect on our collective journey and the divine narrative that has been unfolding. The eclipse in 2024 goes beyond being a mere astronomical event. It represents a moment rich in symbolism and spiritual depth. It suggests that there's a grand story woven into the fabric of the cosmos, a narrative that spans past, present, and future, inviting those who watch the skies to contemplate the profound mysteries of existence. How can we embark on a celestial journey in 2024 and unravel the mesmerizing narrative of the sky? If you're curious like us, hit the like and subscribe button and comment your thoughts below.